Good day, we are on, and I would like to welcome you to this special program again because of the subject. The President of the National Assembly and that of the Senate came back on COVID-19. The world has witnessed or is witnessing an unprecedented disease. Over 7.8 million people have been infected as of today, and the epicenter of the disease has moved from North America, which is still highly infected, to Latin America. And Brazil is the most infected country now in Latin America, with 850,769 cases, with 42,791 deaths and 427,000 recoveries. On the African continent, it's quite interesting that Africa thus far has suffered or has been infected by 235,680 cases, with 6,348 deaths thus far and 103,554 recoveries. On the continent, Egypt is the hardest hit country with 42,000 cases, over 42,000 cases, with 1,484 deaths. We'll be talking about COVID-19 today again and try to see if we can get into this delicate avenue of what scientists call the conspiracy theory. Where is COVID-19 from? We have scientists and scholars to discuss that with us. We'll also pay tribute to Claude Ndam and Mama Ngeya Larut, who died. Mama Ngeya Larut just died this morning in Douala. Claude Ndam died about 2 days ago. And we'll talk about what's happening in the USA of America. Has America become not the United States that is supposed to be the melting pot of all peoples of the world? These are the subjects we'll handle. We have, from my right to the left, we have Chief Professor, that's how he wanted me to address him the other day, Wilfred Mbacham. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
He's you have a very complicated way of wanting me to present who you are.
Well, I'm a public health biotechnologist.
Okay, public health biotechnologist. Okay. You were talking to me the other day about quantum biology. I think we'll talk about that this midday. We have a regular friend who has been like a colleague of CRTV now because he's very regular on CRTV, Dr. Eric Tandy, the public health expert. We have just closest to me, a friend and colleague, very regular on press, also Eugene Fungwa. He is a media and development expert, and we're just welcoming the man who looks more like Luke Ananga of blessed memory with his heart, Franklin Sonebayan. You're welcome. Okay, I'd like us to go to what the papers were feeding on this week, and we'll begin our debates shortly.
Newspapers were at it again this week, churning out reports on the situation of the coronavirus pandemic in the country. Cameroon's parliament formed a united front against the virus on Cameroon Tribune as they met for the June session, whose stakes the paper equally presents. Then government slashes 2020 state budget as COVID-19 flight protracts on the Post newspaper. Before the Post weekender comes in, with 3 MPs resign to mayoral positions as Cameroonian patients flee hospitals as COVID-19 cases increase on the horizon. President Biya offers 170,000 face masks to schools on Cameroon Tribune. The same face masks handed out by Minad Boss to education ministers on the Guardian Post. A scientist then reassures the Rambler readers coronavirus daily death toll may fall to 0 by July. Before the paper presents sloppy measures corrupt officials fueling COVID-19. Cameroon Tribune announces the creation of new testing points for COVID-19 screening. The Guardian Post reports of a Black Monday for Anglophones as Barrister Sama Francis Frundi's last man standing falls. Pamol Deputy GM Chief Asanga also dies. To Cameroon Tribune, Barrister Sama bows out as the post-weekender presents the life and times of Barrister Francis Sama. Fako High Court throws out request to produce Wazizi dead or alive on the Guardian Post as the paper announces another Anglophone journalist declared missing. But on its Tuesday edition, the Cameroon-loan English daily, The Guardian Post, says the missing journalist Kingsley Fomonyo Njoka found at SAID 1 month after he was arrested, just when the security challenge heightens in Manu Division on the Rambla. Manu turns to juju swearing to neutralize Amber fighters after the gruesome killing of Mamfe Mayo, writes The Horizon. To the Post, chiefs, witch doctors invoke Obasanjo to hunt Mamfe Mayo's killers. Yet mayhem in Manu as 5 youths slaughtered days after traditional rulers invoked deadly juju against killings in the division on the Guardian Post. When the coalition to end war in Cameroon resorts to virtual forums due to COVID-19 on the horizon, Cameroon's crisis named among world most neglected by the Norwegian Refugee Council's latest classification on the Post newspaper. Then CDC drags traditional ruler to court over land grabbing on the Guardian Post. Court slams injunction on CDC land as grabbers multiply on the Post. The Rambler writes, hidden hoofs kicking CDC workers out of land jobs. The PCC teachers' indefinite strike over 50% salary cut. The farewell audience granted the outgoing Korean ambassador to Cameroon by the head of state. Photo and a press review with this discovery story of a young Cameroonian actress on the Post Weekender. Mabel Jaika, 24, has been simply described as a genius and a rare talent to behold. The native of Bui in the northwest region has featured in 20 films in Cameroon and has won the hearts of many through the clean execution of every character she has played. Jaika dreams of an industry where raw and new talents are groomed to blossom. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Okay, like I did make mention earlier on, we have about 7,762,972 cases with 430,229 deaths this far, with 3 million or 3.5 or 3.6 million recoveries. So what's the exact situation in Cameroon like today, Dr. Tandy?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. As of today, we should be counting, as according to statistics of the last 24 hours, we are at 9,572 confirmed positive cases, and then we equally have about 275 deaths and 5,570 recoveries. Okay. That is far
the
as
situation in
the
Cameroon.
situation in Cameroon.
Have we reached the peak of the infection?
Recently we just multiply number of screening centers around the country. So we're expecting increase in screening. I guess we've not arrived the peak yet, but in the days ahead, we should be expecting to have or to hit the peak as far as the other screening centers would get fully involved in the communities.
Is it more concentrated in urban areas, or the thing has started going into rural areas?
Based on decentralization, this has gone right down to districts. So district levels, according to public health calendar or organigram, district levels are right in the communities. So screening will be done at some district levels, not all, but at some district levels.
Okay. Which are the most infected regions or towns as we speak today?
Yeah, as of now, we should be counting the center region, the littoral region, the west, as well as the south and east that are equally coming up, including northwest region.
Okay, but the whole country is involved?
Yes, the whole country as of now is involved. We don't have any region that doesn't have cases. We've recorded cases now in all the 10 regions of the country.
Okay, but one of the key, my preoccupation is the situation in most rural settings, because most people, we have what we usually call the fever or the cold and malaria. How would people be able to, because the villages, if we've been at the level of the district hospitals, we have villages that don't have access to a medical officer. So how, and people still are moving, so how would people be able to know that what is infecting them is COVID and not the usual cold or malaria they have?
Well, I think there are a number of things that have been explained to the rural community, at least in mine, to let them know exactly and make a distinction whether they're getting the fever, it's due to malaria or due to COVID. And one of those things is to hold your breath for 20 seconds and see whether you can. Then you can tell that, you know, your lungs are already being infected. Also, if you're coughing and you're sneezing and you have a fever, then you should start to suspect this. And I think what we try to do at the rural level was encourage a lot of people to take home remedies to continuously boost their immune system, but also notify the doctor on the medications that they had in stock. Should they find a case, then they should do a contact tracing and have everybody in the household cured immediately. We're using the Kundingi strategy, and then at the same time ask them to now come to the hospital, but also send out the brigade to decontaminate the house. And I think so far we've been able to contain it. Of the 5 cases we had in my district, we're still at those 5 cases. There's a possibility that things may explode. We do not know. We're just watchful, and we've sent out scouts just to be on the watch to see what is happening.
Okay, you just talked about home remedies. Do these home remedies help initially in terms of preventive approach, or the help in curing the symptoms?
Well, I wouldn't say cure, because when you say cure, you need a number of evidence and you need a number of things to actually nail that the virus was there and it's no more there due to what you've taken.
Okay.
But I would say that, you know, most of the time when we get an infection, we kind of, our body fights against it. And the better you arm your body to fight against the infections, the better for you. And I think this is what we're trying to encourage as well. At first, people didn't see the connection between foods and the viral infection. But now I think more and more people are seeing that connection, and especially because also a bacterium that is found in the gut has been shown to be associated. Originally, they said, well, that's a controversy, we really don't know, but there's evidence. We have a preprint information which is now demonstrating that one of the proteins from within this bacterium is pushing individuals to go downhill and become even more infected with with COVID. And so I think the evidence between our microbiome, the intestinal gut, and COVID is becoming very clear. And I think I'll just praise the team in Cameroon for having stayed their course and have maintained that azithromycin must be part of their cocktail in what and how they treat. And I think that we want to give credit and tribute to the Advisory Council on COVID that has stayed its course. And I saw a document yesterday for which I felt very proud, first as a Cameroonian and subsequently as an African, that despite all the issues worldwide, they have just maintained a steady course, and which scientifically we can explain exactly why that course is the best option so far.
Okay.
Since
we'll come back to that when we'll be talking about the established protocol in Cameroon.
Absolutely.
Now, okay, let me go to Bayan. When you listen to them speak and you listen to the attitude of Cameroonians, would you say that finally the ordinary Cameroonian has come to understand that this is a danger, we must prevent, we must work to be able to handle the situation?
Not at all. I often say when I sit around them, I say they are the natural scientist, I'm the social scientist, and that's where I'm looking at. I'm looking at how people are informed and how people behave.
Exactly.
And honestly, I'm not sure that 80% of Cameroonians believe that there is COVID-19 in this country. I was on a university campus on Friday, and I was shocked at what I saw.
So I would have been thinking that those who are literate and that can read, go online, should be more informed about the realities of the existence of the virus.
What I saw, I'd have expected to see that with primary school kids
exactly.
who don't even know what's happening and who are in the illusion, or I don't know whether it's an illusion, but at least we've been told that the age bracket is apparently safer. We are in the university campus. You have people who are pretty young, but you have lots of people who are edging towards the bracket, which is the high-risk bracket. And no one, I'm telling you that in the whole campus, I'm not sure I saw 5 people wearing the masks. I saw like 60–70% having masks, but they were wearing them under the chin. In the lecture halls, even the lecturers were not having the masks. They had the mask under the chin, and they were talking, going around and talking into the faces of students. And the students are looking at them without any sense. There's even no reflex to say, oh, there's some potential danger. When I look at that, I tell myself, I'm not sure people are aware that.
Is it not because they've used what they call the camera that detects your body temperature? Can
the scientists tell us? I think this thing it determines our body temperature, and there could be other reasons for the body temperature. I'm not sure that thing, it doesn't detect whether it doesn't detect COVID-19. Mm-hmm. It detects your body temperature, which is just one factor. There are others. So if you don't have the temperature, and I'm not sure that 80% of those who go to campus are tested. By the time somebody said to me, they only come around 9 o'clock, and by 7, lectures are already on, 40–50% of the students are already on campus. They have dodged, so to say, the thermo something, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they have dodged it, not willfully, inadvertently. So they are already on campus. How do you know who has it? I mean, if we only go by the body temperature, I'm scandalized at what is happening.
Okay.
And when you talked about, does it go down to the districts? What I'm talking about is even a regional capital. So if you imagine how much laxity and laissez-faire is going down in smaller towns and villages, I'm afraid for this country. They gave us a figure of 9,000 something. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we notice how fast this thing is increasing. It's fearful.
Okay. We know that it's a virus, and that has potentials to kill, but people are recovering very fast from the virus as well. And he just talked there about the home remedies, which people has changed a lot of attitudes within our community.
No, I think we also have to be careful the way we communicate this information. Remember, one of the problems we pointed out here was that there was the miscommunication, messaging that happened that gives people the impression that because we have a high recovery rate, perhaps there is some thing within our communities that predisposes us to better fight the disease, which is really not true. We don't know for sure. I think that was last week on the program, one of the experts was saying whether the people who are being treated or who are being declared to have been recovered are people who are recovering naturally, or if it's the treatment protocols that are working. That information is not known. So we don't even know why people are recovering. The other thing is we don't also know how many people are infected. 9,000 is only confirmed cases. He's just said that they expect the number to go up with the increase in testing, which means that there are probably lots and lots of people within communities who have not been tested. And so it will be difficult to look at the percentages based on confirmed cases and confirmed recoveries and conclude that this is how...
The situation is under control.
Quickly we are recovering from the disease.
Okay. Now, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I wanted to add something relating to the question you asked, Franklin. What you need to know is that most of the measures that depend on the citizen are behavioral measures. And like I pointed out many times here, we overestimate the capacity of people to act based on facts and knowledge and good sense. There's a lot of other things that are going on within the community that are shaping people's behavior. One of them is the contradictions in the information they're getting from all over the place, even in government communication. I did point out once that when you tell people that you can go to the market, you're actually telling them that it's safe. And to deconstruct the message you have passed is a more difficult task to do. If you tell people go to the bars, it's okay to go to the bars, you're telling them that somehow there's a safety threshold, which is not very obvious to everyone, but people assume that it's safe to go to the bar. Okay. So there's a lot of miscommunication that's happening. There's a lot of mismessaging that is happening, even in accurate information. Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for that observation. I'll go back to you, Prof. Do we now know everything about the virus?
Well, I think first it's a very strange situation where a virus is now known and almost being established that it associates with the bacterium, and both are behaving like a parasite. So it's a strange world, and if we measure the amount of knowledge that is supposed to be known on COVID as a 10,000 meter hill, for example, a mountain, we haven't even gone up 1 meter. Oh. And there's so much that's evolving, and I guess this is where the controversies are rising from. There's so much information that is being spilled around, and where we have no clue on exactly what is happening. You would soon hear that, okay, if you look at the charts from the ministry as of the last publications between June 6th and June 10th, then you notice that we had some kind of a small peak 3 weeks ago. But that peak dipped, and it's almost on the rise. Now, when we were in school, they told us that epidemiologists can cause epidemics. And this is out by how you measure and how you produce the information. Every time that you show the cumulative curve, it's like it's always on the rise. But this is the cumulative of everything else that has been tested and confirmed. Now, what we'd like to know more about, and which the population needs to be educated about, it's about the incidence. Okay. How many people are coming out almost like per day? And that's when we will know whether we are reaching the peak or not. I am very happy, I don't know who took the decision, to demystify this whole testing thing, because there had been a backlog of so many samples that had not been tested. And out of the blues and by some stroke of luck, we got the antigen test here, and I praise the one who brought in the antigen test to demystify this, so that within 30 minutes or an hour you can get the results and you can know exactly whether to confine, to quarantine, or to go forward. So I think that a lot is happening, and the more and more we get the information out, the better. One thing that I think Cameroon should be proud of is that it has its sons and daughters who are the pinnacle of information regarding how patients should be managed. I just want to cite one example, Professor Mbanya. Very early on in the epidemic, he quickly assembled, the diabetologists who were here in Cameroon, and they came up with a guidance note on how to treat patients who are diabetics and who have COVID. And he's taken that knowledge internationally, and recently he was on a panel with other guys at Harvard and trying to dispense this information. But they just published a paper which clearly demonstrated that there's a bidirectional relationship between COVID and diabetes. One exacerbates the other, and the other exacerbates the other. So you're in a doomed situation if you're having that, and how to manage it. And I think that with those kinds of information here, furnishing it to the scientific committee that has to make decisions and produce guidelines, I think it's one of the best situations that we can have.
All right, I'll be coming to you shortly, but much has been said, much has been written about the conspiracy theory. He just said, if it's a 10,000 meter hill, we've not gone 1 meter in terms of the knowledge we have about COVID-19, but much has been written about conspiracy theory on this virus. When you read what is being written, do you have the impression that people want to demystify or misinform people about what's happening to the world today?
Well, when you talk about the conspiracy theory, I'm sure you mean the claims that it's not a natural phenomenon.
Exactly.
I would want to begin with the big guy talking about the big one. That's Donald Trump saying it's a Chinese fabrication. How do we know? It started in China, and the big question is, how come people did not travel from Wuhan to Beijing? They traveled out to the world, because Beijing is not as affected as the rest of the world was affected. There is a counterclaim that it was U.S. soldiers, medical brigade or whatever who did something in a lab and left it there for it to poison the Chinese population. We don't know which one to believe, whether we should even pay any attention to it. The fact we have is that we have something on our hands we don't know how to handle. And whether it's a conspiracy theory or not, we've been told that HIV was also a fabrication. It came from monkeys in Cameroon, it came from a lab in the United States. We don't know which one to believe. The fact is that we are suffering from HIV/AIDS and it's ravaging our populations. So there will be lots of theories. Okay. I think what makes this one more propagated, if there wasn't Donald Trump, who is himself a propagator, what makes this one more propagated is social media. We've always had conspiracy theories around about everything that's...
Okay, the importance of the social media in our world today.
Is propagating it, and Donald Trump is propagating it.
Okay. When you read what is being said about COVID-19, he just talked there about high-profile personalities adding their voices to it. And you have scientists like the one who discovered the AIDS virus making a comment which raises questions in the minds of people about the conspiracy theory. What does that bring to your head?
Now, the one thing you need to know is that the population is not properly equipped to detect conspiracy and false information, especially when you're dealing with such a technical issue. The population is not equipped. So they are looking at opinion leaders in the communities and trying to say, if this person can say this, then it's likely true. And that's the difficulty with, especially with COVID-19, because we've had, like Franklin has pointed out, world leaders who have been at the center of the distribution, even the creation of misinformation.
Let me orientate your question. If Professor Montagnon, who himself is a scientist, who was supposed to say, no, this can exist because if he raises questions about the whereabouts, the source of that COVID-19, does that not...
That's the point I'm making.
Trickle or prick you and I, who are not of the scientific world?
No, I don't want you to take me down that road. I'll take the example of the community that I understand, climate change. Why is there a lot of climate change skepticism? It's because renowned professors of earth sciences, of climate sciences, have openly said climate change is a hoax. And so the point I'm making is that people take cues from those kind of people. If I remember, as I pointed out here, that people believe in information that confirms what they already believe. There's a lot of mistrust in government institution and government mechanism all around the world. So anything that reinforces that mistrust picks up sufficient steam within the population. And that's the big problem we've had with COVID-19. The people who believe that the numbers are being jacked up so that governments in Africa can make money from the World Bank or I don't know where. The people who believe that, like Franklin pointed out, that COVID-19 came out of a lab. That people, because we've lived in a world where trust is completely broken down.
Okay. But there are people who have pushed forward theories that it's as a result of the G5 technology that has gone out of hand and that now we are having something which the human race cannot control.
Yeah, Joe, you know, when we are faced with a pandemic such as that of COVID, it's but normal that people have to come up with series of reflections and theories, which is very, very normal. But the concern of each government is to protect the citizens. And I think that is what Cameroon is doing in order to orientate its information towards the population and preventing the death of as much as its citizens are concerned. I just observed what the two journalists on the panel said as far as if the population is aware or really believing about COVID-19. We get a little bit worried here because the information to the population,
but discipline the information we are being fed with.
Yeah, but I want to doubt what kind of information the population wants again. The government didn't say go to the market and take out your face masks. The government say, go to the market, put on your face mask once you're getting into a public space, and respect physical distancing.
About the source of the virus, not the measures.
It was just a comment. Okay. I'm coming back to, to 5G. I know it's a conspiracy. You know, when it comes to living in the environment, we're bound to live with technology. And when once 5G come up, it's but normal for people to postulate this. But it's too early for us to start drawing conclusion on that, because these are still two new things that have come up within the environment. And with the mutation, of radiation, now we know we cannot at any moment conclude as far as that is concerned.
One little word about 5G. 5G already had a bad name with Western governments.
Exactly.
The UK and the US, but especially the US, because the UK was more collaborating with China and the US was like fuming. Why are you letting them come and get so close to our secrets, you know? So 5G already, which is coming from China, Huawei, already had a bad name. So what we are seeing here, whether it's true or false, there is a lace of international propaganda, which has always been there. You know, governments have always lied to us. We were told that some countries were evil empires, and some were, if I can deduce, holy empires. We've come to understand that there is none that's holy. It's just about who tells a story more forcefully and through which media. Social media has come to give us a level playing field, and the propaganda is flying left, right, top, center, and all directions. And everybody has, as little as I am here, I have a voice where I wouldn't if I didn't have access to an established media organ. I think the 5G thing is short and simple propaganda. Okay. Somebody wants to spoil the name of 5G for the sake of international propaganda.
All right. Prof, you've done quantum biology. And when they talk about 5G technology, and they talk about these conspiracy theories, they talk about mistakes from laboratories that might have let this virus escape from somewhere. What is your take on things like that?
Now, let me say that my new interest is quantum biology, and I'm beginning to look at exactly, are there other properties of the biological molecules we know beyond just their physical presence. You know, the proteins have extra properties, do DNA have extra properties, and if this is true, how do we know that? Let me just give a short example of what abstraction is in the science of quantum biology. For example, the copper wire, you know, it will transmit electricity.
Exactly.
But it's not like other wires would also transmit electricity. But if you take a copper wire, you can't take an aluminum wire. You have to take a copper wire and wound it around a magnet, and when you spin it, it generates electricity. So that's an extrinsic property of the copper wire that makes it have that ability. Now the question is, do we have this other technology? Do we have DNA? Does DNA behave similarly? Now DNA is a charged molecule, and every charge that's in motion generates electromagnetic radiation of some sort. And so we expect that DNA should be doing so. And if that is the case, then any other interference with what DNA naturally would want to do is cause for concern. The DNA may break beyond just what we know as the physical breaks, because it is interacting with radiation that it normally should not be interacted with. Now let me tell you how this 5G just means fifth generation.
Exactly.
Now it started with voice analog, 1G. Voice digital, 2G. Voice and data, 3G. Data speed, 4G. Now we're going to ultra speed, which is 5G technology. Now, it's said that the waves, the radio waves that are being used in 5G technology is just short of the waves that would be considered a weapon. Now, I don't want to get into the weaponry of this radiation, but I just want to say, when originally scientists in Sweden said 4G could cause cancers, they were dismissed, completely dismissed. And then they could show that women who took their 4G phones and put them in their breasts as a way of storing them, ultimately developed breast cancer, and you could show that DNA was damaged. Now it followed up and said if you held the cell phone more to your left ear, there was the possibility, it was not a possibility, it's been published, that it will cause a cancer of the brain on that side. Now already this was 4G. Now if we step up the radiation to 5G. It is bound, whether we like it or not. And we can slowly prove this, that there is going to be some amount of interference with DNA. Now, what happens with 5G is that cells normally are programmed to die. Now, as these cells are programmed to die, you could trigger them dying faster. And it has been hypothesized that 5G is likely to push these cells faster to dying. When they start breaking up, they don't break up like necrosis, like they're rotting out. No, they break up and they are contained. Now, in the process of being contained, they still pick up the crumbs of RNA, DNA. And you know what? They look exactly like the coronavirus, because the coronavirus is also looking like the cell, because it's taken its material, which is like a lipid bilayer with these spike proteins. Now, this is so there's concern, and I think we should be able to map. Why is it important to map and find out whether truly these technologies are affecting the human cells? Once you know, you can block, you can prevent.
Okay.
I was just talking with Eugene before we entered the studio, and he said the radio waves are very shorter frequencies, and so they have more penetrating distances than the long, sluggish waves. Now, what that means basically is that actually now there are buildings with paints where you can't get signals even for 4G because they've painted these walls with that. That makes you a safe individual. If I open your phone and you're in the center of town, God bless me, I think when you go through the center of town, you should put off your phone. Because if you know the amount of signals, Wi-Fi signals that are attracted to your phone, it's amazing. If you look at the cloud, the Wi-Fi cloud, it's amazing. Now, the Earth has its natural radiation. No problem. We get it from the sun, we get it from other sources. But when you now come with another blanket of extra radiation, it's bound to affect health. You can't escape that. And I think that we shouldn't dismiss, it's 5G conspiracy or whatever. We need to go to it. We need to get our scientists from Polytech, from the Faculty of Science, Faculty of Medicine. Let them sit down and find out how do we block this thing from... The technology is there. We must use it somehow to communicate. But we must look for another way of saying, okay, these are the materials through which this thing cannot go. So when you're in a building, you're safer because you can now apply these paints on your walls. I think this is where we need to be ahead. Okay. It's no monopoly of the West anymore. And I think that we need to look for our solutions and get our own populations safe.
Joe, why I say this conspiracy? This is beautiful science. This is free lecture. Why I say it's conspiracy?
You know.
Why I say it's conspiracy? 1 second is we left from, like he gave the sequence. We left from 1, 2, 3. It was already dangerous. 4 was pretty dangerous. We knew it. We've read all of these things, and we know that your phone, you have to keep it at a certain distance or not in the room when you're going to bed.
And that's why
the world did not come to an end. Why will the world come to an end with just one addition 5?
Because it is becoming more dangerous.
Risky. Exactly. And we do not know how many people were eliminated in the world due to 4G. The natural radiation has selected some individuals to survive.
When it came from the West, it wasn't a problem. Now it's coming from China, it's a problem. That's where I am.
Okay. There's no problem. I think Prof said it all, that our scientists need to work on that to be able to help us live with the technology as they advance. Because at one point, I don't know whether he was the one who said that 5G is just short of a weapon.
Yes.
And you know how dangerous that can be.
4G was already just a little less short.
And there will still be 6G.
Let me
and even 7 will come. And why not?
I learned of 5G 9 years ago.
Okay.
So it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
I'd like us to have a break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion. And this has to do with the latest update on COVID in Cameroon.
These are the waste buckets where protective materials and medical equipment used to administer treatments to the COVID-19 patients are dumped after usage.
When the rest of food, we take it from where the patient is hospitalized, we decontaminate it with solution of chlorine and put it in the bucket. But when health personnel take care of patients, what they call infectious waste, they put it in the red bucket here.
The waste products are first disinfected before dumped into the waste bins. To keep the environment and health personnel safe from the COVID-19 pandemic, the waste products are transported to the incinerator for burning.
When we take them to the incinerator, as you can see behind me, you have to separate them. There are some hard and there are some that they are soft. We have now to prepare our incinerator for the incineration, 1,200 degrees centigrade.
Staff in these units work on an 8-hour shift basis and the service is operational 24 hours on 24. After each service, the nurses are disinfected and the protective materials removed and dumped in the bins. Incineration is done every day as from 6 p.m.
Okay. What is the cooperation like at the level of the African continent?
Okay. So basically, I think that there is a good cooperation on many fronts. I was also happy that the African CDC also has a Cameroonian. So okay. That's a good thing. And I think that John Kengasong has done a good job in trying to coordinate different centers in the response to that. They've put out advisories, they've put out issues, and I think that most of the people are beginning to know. I also understand that they're trying to equip the different people. But when you look at the scientists themselves, for example, under the leadership of my rector, we're collaborating with South Africa to bring some new solutions, repurpose all medications for new diseases, and we're going to see that happen. We're collaborating with people also in Ghana. We're collaborating with people in Kenya, in Ethiopia, and I think that the African Academy of Science has also put out a number of calls inviting African centers to do that collaboration. We're seeing a new dynamism in research and in research collaboration, and I think that I can just be happy that COVID ever came, because it's going to reorient and rewire our thinking about science and thinking about even how science should be funded. And that is going to make us look inwardly for better solutions to things that we've before now only learned them from the West. And I think, the technology that is there now, for example, there are many things that have been developed around in Polytechnic, in the University of Buea, in Chang, in Douala, in Yaoundé, which we learn of them outside at conferences. Meanwhile, they have been done here. And I think that now it's making us to rethink on exactly how to reharness the technologies, the technologies that we've developed, and then put them into perfect use. Okay. And I'm not surprised, because if you look at the Silicon Mountain in Buea, then you say, oh my goodness, these guys are just talented. But where are they known? They're known more outside than known inside. And we need to have some kind of I don't know whether it's a think tank or venture capitalists who have to put in so much money and invest. And it's not always that you invest that you reap benefits, but by investing, you would promote a certain thinking, a certain connaissance, a certain renaissance, if I may say so, about how science and humanities, how science and human welfare, how science and our African science.
Yes, one thing which COVID-19 has done is that it has brought out African knowledge on the treatment of diseases that crop up. And I know, like almost all of you, that in our rural communities, we still use our leaves, the barks of trees, and so on in trying to help our people recover from ailments. Now, has the treatment protocol in Cameroon taken into consideration that, or it's principally that which has to do with Western medicine?
Okay, so basically you're taking me now into the other controversy, which has to do with whether, chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine, does it work? And I think, again, I want to pay tribute to the men in white, men and women in white, who have been at the forefront of this fight, and to say that our hearts are with them, and we encourage them, and we keep on looking at the changing situation and provide the necessary information for them to do their jobs efficiently. I think when you look at the protocol, the treatment protocol or management protocol for COVID, then you know that some amount of thinking has gone on. I know that recently there have been papers which dismiss, hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine doesn't work. But when you look at the way the studies were designed, none of them has been an interventional study, an experimental study. Most of them have been observational. And how observational data is collected matters what you conclude. Now, we've seen that in some of those papers, or they're published, and this thing is not safe at all. What have they been giving us for 70 years? So WHO halted its own protocol, quickly went to its safety data, and found out that this was not right. Scientists around the world gathered, and they pestered the authors of that paper to show them the evidence, show us how this data was collected. Now, when they could not get that information from the company, the only thing they could do was, hey, to save our name, we're retracting. We're taking out the paper, and then it allowed for the other studies to go on. So currently there are interventional studies, experimental studies that are going on that will tell us once and for all whether this thing is effective or not. However, in Cameroon, what I want to let you know is that in Cameroon, chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine is part of our protocol, but it's not just that. They've added azithromycin, but they've added also vitamin C. They have added anticoagulants to take off the thrombosis, meaning that the blood that will clot in the small blood vessels around the heart and the lungs, they'll also put that in. But most importantly, they have added zinc. Why do I say zinc? Because zinc is known to be an antiviral, but zinc cannot enter the cell. So what takes it into the cell? It's chloroquine. It's the only ionophore that can take zinc into the cell and act as such. Chloroquine acts in 3 ways. 1, it prevents viral entry, so you eliminate a little bit of it. 2, it protects against viral replication. 3, it breaks the cytokine storm. So on the basis of these 3, chloroquine should always be part of the protocol. But chloroquine would not work if you've already gone past the tipping point. That is, you're already downhill and you're getting the cytokine storm and you're getting the pneumonia. Chloroquine will not work anymore. So it works most often before you get to that stage.
Which means
you need to manage the patients before that stage. Once it gets to that stage, there's other ways in which the Scientific Council has said these patients need to manage. I happen to have spoken to Dr. Yuloge Nyanyinyi, and I was so impressed because he told me if your lungs are 70% attained, forget it. His medication will not work. You have to take it before your lungs fail, before you start getting the pneumonia. So it's already something he's thinking. And I'm sure that, with time, he's submitted to the ethical committee to get clearance to see whether he could test it in different conditions. And I think that's the way to go. So I think, with all of this that is happening, I'm very happy, again, for all that has happened, that Cameroonians are looking for solutions to a problem that has hit them. In the past, I had said on this same platform that God places the medication where there is the illness. So let's not look too far away. We're going to find the medications just where the illness is.
Okay. Thank you so much. Deke has just come in. Elvis, certainly people have been reacting to what we've been saying here.
Yeah, quite a good number of reactions. We're going to take as the time permits us.
No, just a few.
True Waters says it's conspiracy around the methods of contamination, damage to respiratory system, and the world order imposed by the virus. And Africa needs more collaboration. Gotti Godford says, why is the WHO refusing to recognize the Madagascar and the Archbishop's treatments that have proven their worth? And Prince Motapene says the mass vaccination in Africa and the false association of the coronavirus to the 5G are his own conspiracies, while Mulu Nash Bob says government should invest more in developing the health system and promoting Archbishop Kleda's treatment. And Forbe Peter says WHO did not completely give all the necessary information about the dangerous virus to the world and are not recognizing the cures that are coming from Africa. While Joachim Augustin says Madagascar cure was first denied and now is being tested because of conspiracy. And Bo Bonewo says an African emergency summit would have been organized to have an African response to the virus. And Asa Nembo Emmanuel says more attention be given to markets and schools to check the virus. And Sir Mundi says it's sad humans play with the lives of others and it's time to ask God for mercy. And we conclude with Anje Daniel, who says conspiracy is on plan to infect Asians and Africans in a biological warfare.
Thank you so much. I won't want to get into, that's just an observation. But let's move out a little bit from COVID. I'll come back to COVID when we want to conclude, and to talk about the USA of America. What's happening in the USA?
United States of Africa?
The United States of America.
Okay, in relation to?
The unrest.
Well,
is that the America we knew? Is that the America
the last thing
of the future?
Said here the last time I was here was America should prove to us that they are the United States of America. I think that George Floyd's death has exposed a lot of things we didn't know. Well, which we knew, have reinforced some of the things we knew about America, but I still think a lot has been revealed. I must still admit that that same America has the capacity in its laws to accommodate all of what we've seen, all the uprisings, all the shame that this brought to America. America has the laws that can accommodate it. And America has proven before that in terms of the goodwill and in terms of their laws, that they can manage this. Because one thing I notice is in criticizing the United States of America over this, we've tried to equate them with some of our banana republics. Our banana republics, when this happened there, it is the way of life. I think George Floyd, as much as we've seen so many viral videos that have shown white policemen or Caucasian policemen maltreating black people, I think that America is still a beacon of human rights, of democracy, of freedom of speech, and everything that is good for humanity.
Why is the violence or the killings so much with the black color and the black race in the USA?
No,
have you been able to find out?
No. I mean, this is empirical. There's a lot of empirical data that shows the disproportionate way, not only in terms of police killings, but even the entire criminal justice system that disproportionately affects black people. So you can't take that out of the historical context of the United States. And the fact that in spite of the progress that that country has made, racism is still a huge issue. Black people are generally considered a threat wherever. I studied in the UK. I enter a bus and people shift to one corner of the bus. I know, I feel it. So I know that in spite of the fact that I pose no threat, have no intention to hurt anyone, people see me, see the black person in me, see how big I am, and they see a threat. And this, it's playing out in the way we have seen in the United States. The whites own more guns than the blacks. That's the interesting thing about the statistics. White men own more guns than black. People are more tolerant to white armed men than they are to armed black men or suspected armed black men. And it's a very complex social phenomenon.
The interesting thing is that it's coming from people who have been trained, a corps that has been trained, the police corps.
Yes, you of course you know that what I've just described to you is a kind of profiling that's based on race. And the police corps, historically, has been trained to profile suspected criminals in one way or the other, and one of the ways is the color of your skin. In our context, maybe to better understand it, when people go out to policing, there are certain categories of people in the society. If you work if you're around a crime scene dressed in a certain way, you become a suspect. The difference here is that in the United States, the color of the skin forms part of those
contributory factor.
Barack Obama said this during his campaign. His mother, he was brought up by his white grandmother. He said when his grandmother told him that when she's walking down the street and she sees a black man coming, she feels threatened.
Yeah. And just this week, I think, one of the leading supermarkets in the United States, and this is very interesting, had to unlock. So beauty products that are meant for black people were kept on the supermarket shelf under keys and lock. And beauty products meant for Caucasian people and people of other colors were on the open shelves like everything else. What's the assumption behind that decision? It's likely that black people would steal from the shop. I've gone into supermarkets and been followed. This is experiences where someone
Is it not because people have been caught?
No, I'll give you an example. This one.
We don't have time for examples.
We have. it's important that we make the point. I go to a supermarket, I shop, and I pay with a Visa card, and the lady across the counter asked for my ID. Everybody is paying with the lady asked for my ID.
Okay. All right.
I brought 3 ID cards, and they still called the supervisor.
Okay. Now, we know it exists. We'll have to continue to struggle against that. Maybe there were some high-profile deaths this week. Barrister Sama, Claude Ndam, Ngea Root. Maybe just a word, tribute.
Well, I think our hearts go out to them, and I understood that they might have died of one of them might have died of this current thing. I don't want to know what resulted in his death, but it's alleged that he died of it, and I think that made people even stressed up during this period, adding to the stress already that people are going through. It says, if this guy can die of it, then somehow it is real and it is there. And I think our hearts go out to the family to mourn their loss. And again, just to come back and say that there is hope that this thing would come to go. The hope would not come so soon. We should be prepared to live with it for about 2 years, to 2022. And so all the measures that we're going to take, that we continuously apply in trying to contain this, should be one that offers us a mastery of what we already know and how to live with it. And again, I think there's hope, and I think we need to encourage each other. That was my message from the church in which I attend today. And it says, please encourage each other. There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. And I think on this call, I would want to say there is hope.
Okay. Franklin, some 8 years ago, you and I started Press R.
You and I and Eugene.
Yes, the two of you.
We are pioneers of Press R.
And Archunenti and the doctor at the Prime Minister's office.
Dr. Masombe.
Dr. Masombe, on the 25th of March.
You didn't want to talk about it, but I was going to break the rule if you didn't, because you haven't also said it, but we've learned, I hope you will not sue me for defamation, we've learned that this could also be your last. I think that's why you invited Eugene and I here, that we babied it with you, and not burying, but we are maybe seeing you off with it. I think it's an honor, Joe. Thank you very much. Whether you like it or not, Press Hour, I think, is the greatest we've had. Press Hour has given us a voice. Some of us would never have been heard, but for Press Hour. Thank you very much.
Eugene?
Look, what has gone on, this nation has been shaped by this program. I can tell you that. Some of the things that we sat here and discussed, and you go out into the community and see the changes that are happening at policy level, at people's comportment in society, it's been a tremendous impact on our country. And thanks for making me be part of that journey. And I wish you the best.
About 8 years, I hope that the management will still give us an opportunity to conclude on a more wider.
Even if you go, Press Hour should stay.
Of course.
I think it's a pleasure just being part of this last panel. And I think Eric and I are so pleased that we had a chance to share our little knowledge and to continuously educate the population about this illness, and to tell them also that it's real and it's there, right in our backyard.
Indeed. COVID-19 is real. Maybe next week we'll have an opportunity on a wider platform. It depends on management to be able to come back on what you've said. Until if we don't meet again, good day and goodbye.
CRTV News
ici toute l'info.